Yeah, that's about the parameterization parameters. And let me just quickly check any other doubts. Okay, fine. Okay, again, for string as well, it's the same thing. Ajay, I gave you access, Ajay. String, again, the same thing. So when you select predictable randomization, you will get something kind of a predictable one, which is like a very humanly understandable way. So that's the string thing, predictable when it comes to predictable, and that's about the parameters. So same thing, which I want to tell you about this one. So here, in this value, so again, we do have the session ID. I mean, the J session ID is a very common thing that we get it in terms of correlation. So firstly, let me correlate. Let me show you how to correlate that. I'll give you access, Jay, so I can use that. Uh, this J session ID is the value where you get. So, okay, let me give you the difference between parameterization and correlation. So, parameterization is something which we, as a tester, as a test user, we supply that value. Something like your username, password, that as a user we know, so that we will supply, or anything, something like that test data that we give in the application, that is parameters. When it comes to correlation, what happens is these are the values that comes from the server, because J session ID is something like which I cannot generate or which we cannot generate. That comes from the server, because that is to correlate your session between your application, your browser, and to the web server or to the app server. So that's the J session ID is all about, right? So this value comes from your server. So all you have to do is you have to find this value which has been previously popped up, and you have to refer this here. So that's a very basic how we do correlation, but let me show you how to do this in this scenario. So let me just copy this one here. And can you see there is a kind of a paper thing with a checkbox, tick button? Go to this and click on whose recorded response content. So you're going to find there's a previous response that will have this particular value. We have to find that. So once I enter this value, I don't need to go and search. It'll actually show me a tick button here, right? So there's a tick button here, which means this particular value is already in this particular request response. So if I go to this advanced thing, and if I go to the variable extractors here, and if I click on this +1, go to the both, select this, and if I click on the value here, I can see this value, J session ID. Let me select this one here, pick selected text, and then click on this colon. So let me tell you, let me explain you what I do. So J session ID is the left boundary, and this colon is your right boundary. So that's it. So anything that comes between the J session ID equals to and the colon, it will be extracted. Click on cancel. So anything that's in between this value will be extracted. And let me give the name for this here as J session ID. And one more thing, which is normally what happens is some values comes in your body of the response, some values comes in the header of the response. So when you choose both, which means your both body and header will be part of the scope. So I normally use both. I normally don't use body or header, because sometimes if we choose it, we won't be able to find them, the values. So I normally choose both. And there were several other ways of doing the correlation here. Say, for example, the occurrence to extract. So if you want to extract your first occurrence, you can just choose one. If you want to select your second occurrence or third occurrence, you can choose 2 or 3. In this case, we just have only one session ID. So choosing one will help you. If you click on extract all occurrences, so all the occurrences will be extracted. But in this case, we just have only one. Or if you choose randomly extract one occurrence, it will find a random value, then it will extract it for you. In case if there are several values, it will help you to do that. I'll show you another example for that as well. But for now, I'm going to choose occurrence to extract, which will get me my first occurrence to this value. I'm clicking on OK. And I have my J session ID here. Let me click on search and replace. So this will actually replace all the values for me, all the values which I want to replace in my script, right? So I click on replace all, click OK. And now anywhere if I go, that particular value will be replaced. So if I go back here, there was the value, right? But now it has been changed to $JSON, which means my value which I want to change, the correlated value will be changed, and that will be replaced. So let me give you if boundary is dynamic, how do we handle? See, this is one question which I've got a lot of times and I've answered a lot of times. When you say boundary is dynamic, people do not really understand what kind of dynamic thing it is, because when you say dynamic, it will be either a character or a string, right? So I've really answered. I'm really sorry. I was tired of answering this question several times. I even have a separate video. I'll send you that. Please to watch that. So what happens is when you are having dynamic boundaries, it will be either it will be either a mix of characters or numbers, but in any case it will have a delimiter, whether it can be a kind of equal symbol, and at the end there will be a semicolon or whatever it is. So people used to ask this question in interview. I'm really bored about this, I should say. Seriously, people used to keep on asking this question, what will you do with a dynamic boundary? But you know what, 99% of the situations you don't get this scenario in your real life. To be honest, you don't get this scenario itself. They will ask you an interview question, but you know what, this is something like an interview formality. They'll ask you some technology, but you won't be using it in your company. But I even have created a video for that. I'll share you the link. So there is this logic. For example, what happens is can even tell you whether that will be like kind of a deviation from the current logic. Would you mind if I can share you that separately? Okay, thank you, because that will actually deviate the entire idea. I'll explain you separately. I'll share you the link. I can share that at the end of the video. Fine. So coming back here, the next topic in terms of correlation. So what happens is we do have this item. So for example, again, when we were creating items, right, for the parameters thing, if you remember, we were actually creating multiple parameter files to do that items, right? In terms of the items here. So I was creating parameters for this. But just imagine, what if your items keeps on changing? Like if your items keeps on changing like this, okay, you do have FLDSH -1 in your first set, and you do have different items. So how will you do that? You can't parameterize it every time before you start the test. So in that case, this correlation will help you in that case. So how to do that is, I'll show you. First, let's correlate this cats. So what I have to do is, let me go back to this request here. Going back to the advanced here. And I have to correlate this value. So anytime which if I want to correlate this value, I have to go to the previous request, go to the advanced, go to this particular section and click on, okay, click on this both. And I have to find the value called cats. So you see here, I get to see the value called cats here, right? And same way, sorry, not this one, next. Yeah, you can get to see the category IDs, which is the category ID is fish, category ID is dogs, right? So what I'll do is I'll fetch this particular item here, pick select text, and then the double quotes at the end. So now I'm collecting the category IDs. So let me change it here. So now if you see, I'm not parameterizing, I'm not giving any values, I'm just doing a correlation. So when I'm choosing fish, so here this works. If I choose extract all occurrences, you can see all the items in here. So what I'll do is I'll click randomly extract one occurrence. So it can be random. So for now, it's going to be birds. I'm clicking on OK, selecting this. And what I'll do is I'll come back to this particular step, and then I'll change this value to that particular item which I've chosen. So that is category ID, right? So I'll just choose it, copy this one here, and search for it. Search here, and then I'll replace the string with category ID. So now for the next operation, I'll use the replace all. Yep. For the next one, which is for here, category ID is fine, and the FL1, right? So for this one, I'll use a framework. So how to do it is, I'll choose this items.